Welcome, everyone. I'm Kimberly Boscheman, and this is the Intentionally Intuitive Podcast. In this episode, we're going to take a look at the numerology and the energy for the year ahead for 2023. First, we're going to break down the numerology and the energy for the collective for 2023. And of course, remember, we are all a part of the collective, so we will in some way, shape, or form feel this energy and have to work with it in some way. So it is relevant. So I highly recommend listening to the intro to that portion. Then we will break it down into each individual life path number, and we will take a look at the energies that life path energy will be working with. So again, if you're a life path 1, you may have a different cycle or an additional cycle that you're working through in addition to that of the collective. So if that makes sense. So we're going to break it down for the collective, and then we're going to break it down for each individual life path number for 2023. Before we get into the forecast, this, of course, is a general reading. If you would like a personalized reading, this is a great time for your year ahead forecast. We'll take a look at your own personal year ahead cycle, your personal year ahead cycle, as well as your numerology and the transits and the cycles that you have coming up for 2023. And we will break that down to give you greater insight in what you could be personally be potentially working with for the year ahead. Of course, it's always a great time for, to get your numerology report run, to have a reading or a coaching session. So if you would like to work with me in any of those capacities, book some time with me. I would love to take a look and to work with you in that way. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into this. So I cannot believe, I feel like I say this every year around this time, but I can't believe it's almost a new year. But here we are in the closing phases of this 6th universal cycle of 2022, about to embark on another new adventure as we navigate through the 7 universal cycle of 2023. So I think 2023 is going to be sort of a mixed bag. And I say that because the energies of the 7 are very nuanced, right? But they can be very polarizing as well and divisive when in a shadow or within their extremes. So we could say that, we could say that about all the energies really, but the 7 can either use the sum of all of its parts to build a bridge, or it can burn that bridge down pretty quickly. So as always, it's what we choose to do with the energy that ultimately makes the difference. I say that all the time. But it'll be interesting to see how collectively we choose to work with this vibration. Because this can be a very intense, beautiful vibration to work with, but it certainly has its extremes, again, just like with any energy. But the 7 is unique. So basically, the energy of the 7 has 2 very distinct sides to itself: a very practical, pragmatic, logical, physical, investigative, like truth-seeking, knowledgeable, and fact-checking side, which can at times sort of lack trust in the unseen and within itself. It has this sort of energy of seeing is believing and discounting everything else, or not even entertaining anything outside of the seeing is believing belief system. This side of the 7 is very much in the body, so to speak, and it can be very hypercritical of itself and of others until it is able to prove its own point or find the quote unquote truth, right? And as we know, there are some truths that, always sort of give the same result, but then there's also personal truths, and there's truths that, that are based on belief systems, which are constantly changing. So you can see how that extreme could lead to sort of clinging to an illusion that is not real. So then the other side of the 7 energy is very much the opposite. It is very ethereal. It's head in the clouds, very spiritual, very psychic. 7 energy is the most psychic energy in numerology. Now, I would say we all have that, those abilities, right? But the 7 is almost just sort of already tapped into that. It's just what they choose to do with that energy, right? Or that gift. So anyway, it's a very psychic, very sort of playing in the realms of the unseen, seeing beyond the illusions and the limitations of the 3D reality, and embracing the more sort of intuitive, heart-focused side of life. So where the more physical, brain-powered side of the 7 is much more grounded, this other side of the 7 prefers its wings over shoes and is very much driven by feeling and inner knowing. So both sides of the 7 are very much needed and are beautiful in their own ways, right? However, one side without the other causes division, causes lack of trust, causes rigidity or aloofness, over attachment or over detachment. So too many roots or too big of wings and no roots. The vibration of the 7 is off balance when it isn't bridging these two very important sides of itself and finding its own balance between the two. So you could look at the vibration of the 7 as the ultimate when it comes to the union or the merging of the masculine, physical energy and the more ethereal, spiritual, feminine energy. And again, when I speak, I'm going to be talking about feminine and masculine energy as we move through this forecast. And I'm not talking about gender. So I just want to get that out of the way. I know if you listen to my channel that you know the masculine, we all have masculine, feminine energies from within. There are masculine, feminine energies within everything. And so that's what I'm speaking to. I'm speaking to the energy when I talk about that. So just as a precursor. Okay, so the 7 is the bridge, or is meant to be the bridge that balances these vibrations, right? So when that bridge is missing, we see imbalance, we see divisiveness, we see extremes of these energies. So one more dominant than the other and sort of out of control. So on a high level, we can view 2023 as a pivotal year when it comes to the collective balancing of the masculine and the feminine energies. 2023 has the potential to be the bridge or the building of that bridge sort of commencing, right? And so we can see if we look at the current state of things and the state of things over the last thousands of years, it's definitely been more masculine energy dominated, right, to an extreme. And so the last few years, especially, we see this rising of the divine feminine energy. There's a long ways for that energy to go to meet the masculine. And really, it's this energy or this sort of balancing act where the masculine energy needs to be brought down a little bit, right, as the feminine rises. And so again, 2023 has the potentiality to be sort of, again, the commencing of building that bridge, of allowing and supporting that feminine energy collectively to rise. And sort of balancing out that more masculine energy. We'll see, right? Because it's always, again, what sort of the collective consciousness, which is humans and, the living beings, right? Like what we choose to do with this energy. And really, I'm looking at you humans, at us. I'm human also. And so, but yeah, so as with anything, we rarely see sort of true progress or solutions without there first being some kind of like breaking point where things have to get worse before they get better. And again, it's like if there's too much light, there needs to be some darkness. If there's too much darkness, the light comes in. And so it's like, again, it's like this balancing. But in order to do that balancing, to find that happy medium, there has to be some level of chaos. That's just sort of the way it works, right? There has to be that boiling point, that breaking point, to realize where it is that adjustments need to be made. So we have definitely seen this over the last few years. And I think 2023 will sort of be a continuation of that chaos. But I also think 2023 has the potential with this energy to bring to light hidden truths and monumental solutions that we haven't seen before and that help to shift the collective consciousness, sort of moving us closer towards that merging of the masculine and feminine energies, right? And so we will continue, more than likely, to see the feminine energies continue to rise under this 7 energy to meet those masculine energies. So I think we have the potential to make great strides in that direction, right? Of that balancing. I think that this is potentially a year for awareness, for understanding again where it is specifically that we really need to start making some major adjustments and what that looks like, and then coming up with those solutions. And so again, I don't think that everything's going to come to fruition. I don't think much is going to come to fruition under this energy, but it's the commencing of building that bridge, the building the container to support the feminine energy to rise to meet the masculine and to merge. So generally speaking, we could see a greater focus on health and well-being, advancements in medicine and cures for hard to treat illnesses, because 7 energy is also, again, it's very physical. It can be very physical. It can be very in the body. And so focus comes to the body and holistic health. And this, of course, would allow for greater longevity and greater quality of life. Holistic health can become even more of a focus, including a greater emphasis on how to manage emotions in a healthy, constructive way, and how to harness all of that powerful energy and channel it into something useful. So emotions are typically thought of as very feminine energy. How we express those emotions is can be very masculine, right? Because it's action, right? So there can be, under this 7 energy, a more focus on emotions and how we use those emotions and how we express them and all of those things, right? Like more of an emphasis on this. Because we have been sort of conditioned to suppress that charged energy, which, as we know, it will eventually find its way out in very unpredictable ways. So that can, of course, be very destructive. So there could be more of a focus this year on tools and resources to help all humans sort of find their own best way to express that energy in a positive, constructive way. Also, with this 7 energy, we could see a lot of truth coming to the surface unexpectedly. So secrets being revealed, information that can be that can't be ignored anymore, that has the potential to create major shifts in perception and understanding, as well as shifts in action and outcomes. So 7 isn't energy that sits back and sort of like accepts the status quo at face value without doing a bit of its own digging beyond the surface layer. So if you tell a 7 that the sky is blue, they want to know why. Right? It's like they may believe that, but because they can see it, but they want to know why. They want to know the sort of intricacies. They want to know the hidden details. So we could see this kind of sort of collective investigative work take place this year, where more and more people sort of refuse to just believe whatever they're told by people in quote unquote roles of authority. So does someone or an entity know what's best for you? Maybe, maybe not. But the 7 will do the work to understand as much as possible before they commit to whatever they're being told to commit to. So this energy sort of encourages us to think for ourselves under every circumstance. Now that can be, you can take that to the extreme, obviously. But it definitely, this energy promotes that thinking for yourself, doing the work yourself, coming to your own conclusions based on the information presented to you, as well as your own inner knowing. The nature of the 7 is to be highly sensitive and spiritual, psychic, and intuitive. So it's very, very possible that this year we could see, this could be a great year for all things metaphysical to finally come on stage and to take a bow, right? We could see things such as astrology, numerology, psychics and mediums, and other metaphysical sciences and divination tools find its rightful seat at the table, sort of garnering much needed and deserved respect, or at least we may get sort of an invite to the party, right? Even if our seat still isn't reserved just yet. We may not get the public recognition and approval that we deserve just yet, but we could definitely see an uptick in people becoming more sort of drawn to this side of themselves and recognizing the value in not only these services from others, but in growing their own personal gifts in a much deeper way. So we could also see sort of some religions that are more controlling and more sort of prescriptive or, just more like punitive in nature come under fire under this energy for perhaps unethical behavior or corrupt behaviors. So that may come into the spotlight this year. Because remember, the 7 energy is the truth seeker. It's the one who's going to dig deeper and sort of excavate anything hidden to bring it to the surface to be reviewed. And that doesn't just have to be religions. I mentioned sort of like traditional religions, even spirituality. There's corruption. There's all of these things in anything where humans have their hands in it, right? Like anywhere that the ego is involved, there is corruption, right? And so but there's really this sort of more like spiritual, religious, sort of, again, psychic, intuitive nature to the 7 that's more like philosophical and that sort of thing. So it's really, I think, going to be an emphasis on those areas this year, bringing things to light and bringing to the forefront these tools, the more metaphysical side of things, bringing it to the spotlight, giving us a seat at the table that is much deserved and is, has been a long time coming. And we can already sort of see this happening. I was watching, or I follow Molly McCord, who is an astrologer. I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, are very familiar with her. And she recently, I can't remember the event that she was at, but it was with all of these speakers who, are like authors and like are healers and spiritual teachers and spiritual gurus and all of these things, right? And she was invited to that event and spoke about astrology. And I was so impressed by that. Molly is impressive on her own, but I was so impressed by that because that's what I'm talking about when I say it's like astrology, numerology, like psychics and mediums coming to the table, right? And being an active participant in these sort of mainstream events that normally we wouldn't get an invite to necessarily, right? We don't necessarily see that. And so I was really excited to see that. And I hope that that's sort of an indicator of what's to come because I could go on and on. But anyway, so I do think under this 7 energy, we're going to see more and more of that come to light. And I also think that, again, more and more people will start to sort of investigate and explore that side of themselves. So at the core of this universal vibration, the energy will be working towards bridging the seen with the unseen, the physical with the metaphysical, the heart and the brain, the masculine energy with the feminine energy. So this won't all happen this year, right? Little by little, things will be sort of finalized. Like, you know what I mean? They'll come to fruition, will be, solutions will be found. But I don't think that we're going to see that necessarily happen this year. This is like the jumping off point, I think. This is the time for the exploration and the planning, right? There is the potential for many seeds to be planted this year. And those seeds will be ready to harvest in the coming years. So this is like the preparation phase. This is where we start to get the insights and the downloads and all of that, and then start to plan. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at your individual life path number now to see what you're working with for 2023. life path number 6. So I pulled an animal spirit message for you all, and you got woodpecker energy. The energy of woodpecker, this is an interesting message that's coming through with him. So what's kind of coming through is this energy of like self-imposed sort of restrictions, or like a self-imposed, I would say like restrictions or deprivation, and a new perspective. So here's kind of why that's coming through. So if you think about the woodpecker goes to a tree, pecks the tree, gets, finds the bird, or finds the insects within that tree and receives the nourishment, right? And also builds its home in that tree, et cetera, right? If the woodpecker kept going back to the same tree every day for lunch, or for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, eventually there would be no more insects within that tree, right? And so if it kept continuing to go back to that tree without venturing out and trying and looking for insects within different trees, then it would go hungry, right? It would not survive. It would not thrive by any means. So the woodpecker has to go where the nourishment is. It has to take a risk, go to trees that may not have nourishment, go to trees that might be dead inside and not a good place to build a home, whatever the case may be. But there's this sort of this like metaphor of, if you keep going back to the same tree, you're eventually going to deplete that tree of its nourishment, and there's not going to be anything for you there, right? Like, you have to move on. You have to move to something different. You have to change course. You have to change direction. Not only for your own health, but the health of the tree, right? So not only for your own health, but the health of the other people. So again, it goes to the need for change, the need for regeneration, the need for taking a risk, for stepping outside of your comfort zone, for going somewhere different, for having a new perspective. And a lot of times in the human world, right, other people show us or give us opportunities for new perspectives. They show us new perspectives. It's up to us to be open to them and to sort of run with it, right? So with this energy of woodpecker coming through, there's just this reminder to sort of branch out, to look for your nourishment, for your security, for all of those things, not only from within yourself, right? But in different places, and look for variety, right? Like, switch things up, be open to change, be open for new perspectives, for regeneration. And it's so interesting that this message came through, because you all for 2023 are working with the 13-4 energy. So you also are going to be working with the collective energy that we talked about in the intro, which is that of the 7. So all of that is applicable. However, 6s are moving through a 13-4 cycle for 2023. This is the epitome of change, release, transformation, regeneration, to create something of great value, right? Not only for yourself, but for others. So this could be a year for you where there are major shifts, where if the foundation is not solid, you have to either break down the foundation and start over and build something better, or perhaps you're moving, you find something that is perceived to have little value, and you create something of value, right? This is a beautiful year for that kind of transformation. So this can be across the board, right? Because of course it's a general reading. So this can be like, if there's a behavior that has been holding you back, that has been sort of trapping you in this self-created prison, this is going to be a year where you can start to break free from that, right? If you are in a situation where you're self-sabotaging yourself, this is going to be a year where that's going to be brought to light, and you'll need to face that, and you'll need to find ways to where you're no longer doing that, right? Because if you continue to self-sabotage, you're going to be stuck in a rut. So this year, is probably going to show you where it is the foundation is faulty, where it is that some regeneration or some kind of rebirth needs to happen, some kind of transformation needs to happen. And it doesn't always have to be like huge and like life altering and all of that. Although 13-4 energy is really like scorpionic Pluto energy. So it can be intense. It can feel intense. But it doesn't have to be, right? Like it can be like you just coming to the realization, like, I need to start doing things differently to get different results, right? Like I need to stop going to this same tree if I want to find sustainability, like if I want to find my nourishment, or if I want something bigger and better, right? I have to step outside of my comfort zone. This tree is comfortable, right? I know that it will provide food, but I don't necessarily know what else is out there, right? Maybe there's better food. Maybe there's, something more sustainable. And so 2023 for you all may bring those transformations, may bring those opportunities to, again, go find another tree, find something bigger, find something better, find something more aligned. Maybe the tree that you've been going to only has beetles, but you want ladybugs. I don't know, right? So the point is that this is a big year for you all when it comes to major change and transformation. And it could be, relationships. Maybe you have been continuing to show up to relationships that aren't healthy, that are toxic, that are keeping you in a sort of self-imposed prison, right? So this could be the year where you break free from that, where you recognize your own value and that the time that you're spending with this person or in this relationship is not healthy for either of you, and it's depleting both of you. And so this could be the year that you make a change with that. For some, it could be that you have an opportunity to take a relationship to another level that could bring more stability, that could bring more depth to your experience, right? And so it may be that you have to face some fears that you have around commitment, around sort of having that of, let's say, being more receiving, more receptive when it comes to another person, right? Not only giving, but receiving. So there's a lot that could come up for you all for review this year, and not just review, but there could be a lot that not necessarily that falls away and all of that. It doesn't have to be that dramatic, but it's something where it's like, I think a lot will come to life. I think, to light. I think a lot will come to the surface, where it is that you can build stronger foundations that are much more sustainable, right? That will stand the test of time, all of that, right? Or at least will be sustainable for the time that you need it to be sustainable, right? This energy is going to sort of encourage and sort of push you to step outside your comfort zone, to step outside your boundaries, your self-imposed boundaries, right? So this could be a really big year for growth, for expansion, for taking things to the next level that you've been sort of fighting yourself on. This could be a year to stop fighting yourself, to face some of the fears that you may have, and to really go all in with certain things that feel good, that feel right, right? So yeah, this could be a really big year for you all sixes. You just have to say yes to it, right? Or move with the energy and see where it takes you. Be open to the new perspectives, be open to the new opportunities without immediately saying no because it's outside of your comfort zone. So I do think that could come in very, very strongly this year for sixes, alongside of that 7 energy that is asking us to take the big ideas and the inspirations from the ethereal and create something very solid within the physical. So for you all, it may be about sort of things kind of crumbling to be rebuilt, right? And that's, not for everybody. For some, it just might be coming to a realization that a habit that you have is not helping you. It's hindering you. It could be that simple. And then once you have that awareness, you change course, you change direction, you seek help, you do something to find your way to another tree, right? Very, very powerful year ahead for you all sixes. The potential, right? The energy is there. It's what you do with it. But it's going to be hard to ignore whatever's put before you with this energy, because whatever's put before you with this energy wants to be transformed, wants to be made into something much more useful, a solution, right, from something that is not working. And if this doesn't resonate for you, right, and you move through the year and it doesn't resonate for you, again, it could just be that you are put in a position to hold space for somebody else who's moving through it. That's very possible as well. So just be open to that, right? And be open to the new perspectives that come in, especially if they're outside your comfort zone. I hope it's a beautiful year for you all. Take care, Sixes. Bye for now.